how important do you think psychology is to writing?
Oh, it's everything. Because, like, at the end of the day, writing is communication, and communication is
Mhm.
human to human. So if you can understand what makes people tick, then, I mean, you kind of win the game.
Sweet. All right, bro. Let's kick off.
Let's do
Man,
it.
I'm very happy to be sitting down with you, following your work for quite some time. What I love about your stuff is that you have such a unique background. You were an electrician and now you are a professional at writing. How does someone go from being an electrician to writing professionally and tweeting every day and getting paid thousands to do it?
Yeah, so I've always been more of a creative person.
Mhm.
I I went through a program in high school where you got to grad early and you learn a trade. So I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just follow my brother's footsteps and become an electrician and make money because I don't know what I want to do. So my brother, he paved the way. I followed suit, started working up north. So in cold ass Alberta, it's really cold. And I worked on oil and
Fuck,
gas
man.
plants. And yeah, I did that for like 2 years on and off. And I hated it. Like, or just like from the start, I just hated it because everyone's miserable. Weather's cold. You're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're in a random place nowhere. All you do is eat, sleep,
Mhm.
and work. And that triggered me to think, okay, like there must be more to life and all that. So,
Mhm.
long story short, I mean, I booked a trip to Asia and I just quit my job or whatever. And I went to Asia in like 2019 or 2018, I forget. And went there for 3 months, backpacked around, absolutely loved it. I love the freedom of it. And that was a big catalyst in me wanting to work for myself and work off a laptop and all of that. And
Mhm.
ever since a young age, my mom always told me, like, Dakota, work for somebody, don't work for somebody else, work for yourself. And she like drilled that into my brain. So it was like, it wasn't until the age of 19, it was starting to like really understand, okay, why I should pursue my own business and all that. So uh, tried a bunch of stuff after that trip. I went back to be an electrician for a while to make more money. I did Amazon FBA, did iPhone flipping, eBay selling, all this stuff, like blogging. I just,
All the
I,
shit.
dude, I did so much stuff, like different jobs too. Like I was a medic for a while. I tried day trading, delivery driver, like all this stuff. And I just bounced around.
Mhm.
Um, and I just didn't find anything I really resonated with. So I was like, screw it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go to college and become a high school teacher while I figure it out. And like
Mm.
or being a teacher was like my backup plan. I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna like pursue a job I think I would like. So I was in my second year of college and one day I was scrolling on Twitter because I was on Twitter because I was deep into crypto and that's where I would keep up with the news. And I came
You
across a
pretty much
course.
touched off everything, man. You pretty touched off
Oh,
every
dude.
single eye.
Yeah, dude. Like, one thing about me is I have a very open personality, and I'll try a bunch of
Yeah.
different stuff and see what sticks and see what I like. So I was just going all over the place. And yeah, I was scrolling on Twitter one day, and I came across a course, and they're like, "Oh, go to your Twitter account, and it's super easy and stuff like that." And I was like, "Oh, what the hell? Like, it's $40. Never heard. I didn't know that was a thing. Like growing on Twitter and becoming an influencer or whatever you want to say."
Mhm.
So I was like, "Screw it. Well, I like to write, and I think this might be a cool endeavor." So yeah, I bought it for $40, went through the material, super generic stuff. Like, I don't know, it was a bad course, but did that for 3 months. And what I was learning on Twitter at the time was super cool because I was learning from other 20-year-olds that had businesses and they're teaching their, I don't know, mindset stuff or business stuff. I really resonated with it. And I'm comparing what I'm learning on Twitter with what I'm learning in college, my second year, and it's just crazy to me. Like the amount of free shit that's on Twitter from
Yeah.
these dudes, actionable stuff that's relevant, blew the stuff I was learning in college out of the water. To give you an example of what I was learning in college, I was in a class. I had to take this class. I was forced to take it to get my degree or whatever, and I remember very specifically the teacher was going around. He's like, "All right, class, I want you to go around. I want you to mime a weather system that you're feeling today." I shit you not. I took a picture of the slide, and it was at that moment I'm like, oh, I'm gonna drop out and just
What
go
fucking
all in on.
degree were you doing?
I was I was going to get an English degree and a psych degree, and yeah, I was like, this is just stupid. So I was like, at that moment, I'm like, okay, when the next semester comes around, I'm not going to renew. Whatever, I'll
And
just
man,
drop out.
isn't that funny? Because like it just shows like any sort of theory, no matter if it's fucking astrophysics, if it's engineering, if it's Python, when it's just theory, it's all bullshit. It comes
Yeah.
down to like actual practice, getting into the detail from it. But it's interesting because like, would you have found that you were a naturally good writer when you were younger? Did you have an eye for it? Like, was there something kind of organic? Like, you speak really well. Did you know you wrote really well at the same time as well?
Yeah, so all throughout school, like middle school, elementary, all that, high school, that like English was my top grades, and I excelled at it. I like won some like competitions and stuff like that too. So I knew I was naturally decent at it, but I just didn't
Hmm.
enjoy it because the stuff they teach in school just write about dumb shit, and
Yeah.
you have to have like 2,000 word minimum, so you're just writing a lot of fluff, and I'm sure everyone could relate to that. But yeah, so I knew I that was naturally decent at it, but I just never saw myself as a writer, so when I wanted to pursue that.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Where was the connection between, you know, trying to learn how to write on Twitter to actual turning it into a business? So like with Amazon FBA or like day trading, whatever, you knew that like put fucking penny in, you're gonna get 2x back or 3x back. That's the goal. Did you have some sort of visibility that you could turn into a business? Like, was there people around you that you were bouncing ideas from?
Yeah, so for context, so the first 3 months I only grew to 750 followers. And then I saw an account, a copywriting account, go to 1,000 followers in 30 days. And I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, what the hell? So I hopped on a call with a guy and just kind of shot the shit with him. And I just realized the value of copywriting. I'm like, oh, this is like really good stuff to know. I'm going to learn it. I'm naturally decent at writing. I'm sure I can teach myself this stuff and make a business out of it. At the time, I was doing web design or studying web design. So I was like, oh, that'll be a good kind of match there. So another thing
Mhm.
I've done. So yeah, I just started studying copywriting, and the more I studied it, the more I realized, oh, this shit's like super valuable. Restarted my account in February of 2020 or 2021, sorry. And I made it a writing account. I was just teaching what I was learning. I had no idea. Like, I'm like, okay, like I guess I'll be a copywriter. And I'll just build
Mhm.
an audience in the meantime while I figure it out. Um, and yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a copywriter. But as I was growing my account, I was starting to realize, okay, there's so much competition with copywriters. Like, everybody's a copywriter or whatever. So I was just thinking, like, okay, like, what can I do? Like, how can I niche this down a bit?
Yeah.
And at the time, J.K. Molina, he was talking about ghostwriting and how he grew his ghostwriting agency or how he gets paid to write tweets. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And ghostwriter sounds cool, you know? You're like, I'm a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Sounds
Man,
mysterious.
I had no fucking idea what it was up until about 3 months ago. Like genuinely, like that's how naive I am in the world. Like I saw someone write about it on LinkedIn, and I was like, "Is this a joke?" I didn't actually know what the word meant. So can you
Yeah.
even explain it for people? Because most people won't know what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, so the one sentence thing I tell people is I pretend to be people on the internet.
That
So
is
I write,
wild.
dude, I
Yeah,
tell people
knowing
on
knowing
dates,
that other people do that is fucking wild, man.
dude. So it's funny,
That's
like
like
people, people think they're like their favorite accounts on Twitter is them. It's like it's actually me. Just a surprise.
no. Man, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like, on OnlyFans when people they outsource it to an agency and then it's some dude that's in a fucking call center is talking back to the guys. That
Yeah,
is exactly what it reminds me
yeah. It's very similar. Yeah, but basically, I write content for people and then I grow their account. So
of.
that's basically the gist of it.
That's wild. Was it a case of like you got inbound opportunities that people say like, oh fuck, like this is a good opportunity for me, could you help out? And then were you creating their content, or were you trying to target, let's say, brands or particular individuals? Like how does that come about?
Yeah, basically, I've never niched down with an avatar really. At the start, it was all inbound, so I just thought, okay, I think I can help grow these people that fill out my form. So I've done a lot of like productivity dudes. I've done founders. I've done coaches, all that stuff. I tried doing VCs and stuff, but they're too dry, so I just don't touch them. Or e-com's too dry, so I don't touch that typically. It was just a lot of trial and error. It's like, oh, I'll write for you, see how we do. And yeah, all of it's been inbound pretty much. Yeah, just
That's insane, man.
referrals, or like they see my content and then they just click on the link in the bio. Never promoted my agency once, which is nuts. There's a huge demand for ghostwriting, and I was just fortunate to be early on in being a pioneer in a sense.
So what is it that you're solving with them? If you think about it, like, are these guys trying to launch a product? Are they trying to build their audience around their startup? Like, or do they not have time?
Yeah, so people want different stuff. When I sell status pretty much. So I sell to wealthy people, and usually wealthy people, they don't need more money. So what do they want? Well, they want more influence, they want more power, they just want more status typically. So I typically take on those clients and I just like grow them like crazy. But I've been taking on more coaches and people that want more leads or sales, stuff like that. And so yeah, there's an all diverse range of what people want. Some people want courses, leads, followers. Like some people just want followers. They don't care what you write. They just want followers. It's I love those
Isn't
clients
that
because you
is
can
it?
write some easy shit.
But isn't that weird though? Because the whole purpose is like, like a follower is like nothing, but then you want the click through or the engagement or the signups or whatever. So it's kind of like you understand the level of analytics, but they don't even want that sometimes, which is even wilder. Like that's not
Yeah,
what they're searching for, which is
yeah,
funny. What I want to go back to though is how you go about your content. So I think this is quite interesting. Like in terms of the ideas from the beginning, like what is your structure? Like where do you begin with your ideas for how you build out this framework on Twitter?
yeah. So I kind of have three pillars. So I have the growth pillar, I have the authority pillar, and I have the personal pillar. So with those three pillars, it kind of covers different areas. So growth is more like the platitude stuff, or like my thoughts, stuff that sounds good.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like just basic shit, like fortune cookie tweets. And that's kind of like stay top of mind. So the more people see you, the more they like you. It's called the mere exposure effect, I believe. And so that's just kind of like to get more volume out. It's easy to write. I enjoy writing it. It's kind of like showing my values and stuff. So that's like the growth content. That's just to like, I don't know, grease the alco, keep you relevant. Then there's the
Mhm.
authority content. This is probably the most important. This is what I focused on early on, was giving actual advice in my domain. So when I started my account in February, I was like, okay, I'm a writing account. What do I need to do? I need to give actual advice to people that they can use, because what I realized early on when I first started my other account was people weren't following me because I wasn't valuable to them. I wasn't giving value, so they didn't value me.
Mm.
So what I did was, okay, I'm going to write actionable advice, one piece of actionable advice every day around writing or copywriting, and I'm going to just pump that on the timeline. Like if I don't do that, my head explodes. And that really changed things for me because, again, I was giving value, so people valued me more, and they started to follow me because like, oh, this guy's got useful stuff. So I did that. And then there's the personal tweets. So that's like talking about my story, my worldview, what's going on in my life, stuff like that. And what that does is creates relatability with your audience. They're like, oh, I like that guy. Like people know me for talking about pineapple pizza or Hans Zimmer,
Getting
and
jacked.
exactly like a Jack Chad, right? And it just makes you feel human, because if people only wanted
Mm,
information, they'd just Google that stuff, right? So just by showing who I am and all that, like that kind of just creates that relationship. So when you
mm,
incorporate all three, then at least for myself, my experience is it just kind of has this flywheel effect where they value, they like you, they trust you, and you're relevant, you're top of mind. So you're just going to grow a lot faster than all these other people, uh,
mm.
and make money from it, because you're showing that you're an authority, um, and you're giving value and all that. So it helps a lot.
That's
Yeah,
that's interesting, man, because some people like the narrative would be like, oh, like push the brand or push the particular thing you're trying to solve or get that message out. But I like how you have the three different kind of spokes, because there's the human aspect, the lesson, you're like learning something, and then you can kind of keep things short and sweet. Because I really do enjoy like your short tweets are just kind of like scrolling through, taking a piss, having a look at it, move on with your life. You know, like as in there's different aspects, that's kind of a contrast though, isn't it, to some other people who would say like just stick on your niche and whatever. And I find that sometimes because again, my podcast is like careers online business, but my business is podcasting. So sometimes when I'm writing on LinkedIn, it's about teaching people how to podcast, how to improve their show, their quality, whatnot. But then I feel at odds because I'm talking in contrast to what's on my show. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
a lot of people fall into these struggles and then would end up paralyzed as a result.
Yeah, I think what helps early on is being very narrow focused. So you want to think of like you're planting your roots like a tree, and you
Yeah.
just be very narrowed with what you talk about and be known for that one thing. And then as you grow more and more, that's when you start to branch out a bit. So I started with just writing. And as I learned different stuff, started talking about marketing, I started talking about business, all this other stuff. And I think that's the strategy that really works well, because if you're too broad early on, like no one really cares who you are. You haven't really developed a name for yourself. But I think if you get known for one thing and then you just like branch out, like as you grow, I think that's like the key. I think you need to show that you know your shit at first, and then once you built up that trust with your audience, that's when you can branch out to other stuff. Because it's like the halo effect. Like if they
Yeah.
think you're competent in one area, they're going to think you're competent in other areas, but you have to prove that competence.
And they'll like it no matter what. You know, it's kind of like a lot of the earlier fitness influencers, you know, when they go on later, people just follow their shit anyway. They're growing, they're building houses, they're building gyms, they're doing random different stuff. People just follow it because back in the day they were following ass and abs, you know, just kind
Yeah,
of snowball effect. It's
exactly.
You're at a interesting position because I suppose you came to LinkedIn not that recently, but would like, you know, not that long ago at the same time. Would you say that your growth, I think you're up to like 13 or 14K followers on LinkedIn now. Would you think that's mainly content based or the interaction you've had with others? Like, do you think that's important as well to interact with some other accounts and be in that right domain and be known for what you do?
Yeah, so for context, I started like LinkedIn 3 weeks ago or something. It was stupid. Like
Fuck
I
off.
had yeah, dude, I had LinkedIn, I just never used it. And then I had some friends like,
Wow.
"Hey, you should get on LinkedIn." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, it's pretty easy to repurpose." So the reason I've grown so fast on LinkedIn, I think is a few things. One, is content's there. I know it's validated from Twitter
Yeah.
and Instagram, so I just repurpose it onto there. Two, I get people with big followings to engage on my content. So, say if someone with a big following, 100,000 followers, comments on my thing, that's going to pop up onto their feed that they comment on that, and then they get more eyes to my content. So you
Mhm.
have the traffic and you have the content nailed, and that's how you like grow really fast. Like I had my friend grow to Ben Muir. He grew to 60,000 followers with 6 posts. And it's just like stupid. And also to do with that is supply and demand. So LinkedIn doesn't have many creators. There's a lot of consumers, but not a lot of people creating. So
Mhm.
I mean, the algo is going to push the creators a lot better because it's not as saturated. So you just kind of have that triad of variables in there, and you have a recipe for success. Uh,
I don't know what the number is now, but do you know what the statistics was around how much you were posting recently? Like last year on
on
LinkedIn?
last year I didn't post anything, literally.
Sorry, I mean just in general on a platform. So last year there was about there was 1% of users
Oh,
posting.
holy
Yeah.
crap!
Yeah. So
That's
and
crazy.
that it's pretty much the same now at the moment as well. So 1% posting, 99% consuming. On
Yeah,
Instagram, you have 99% posting, absolute fucking garbage, and then
yeah,
1% actually consuming. So it's so thin. And
yeah,
what's funny about LinkedIn, because I know obviously you've just kind of moved across there as well. So I've been pushing the LinkedIn fucking narrative for a long time. What's interesting is the value that like the average salary is like 60K or something of all of the users is $60,000. Whereas you take that to Instagram, it's a 16-year-old kid. Take it to TikTok, it's a 12-year-old kid, you know?
yeah,
So they're closer to the buy button, I guess. And I
yeah,
suppose like you've seen that yourself, you know, but I'm always pushing that narrative as well. So I feel like for yourself and other guys on, because the thing about Twitter and the Twitter dudes is that they're such good writers and they're such good, like, they can articulate their words just so clearly. Not even shreds. I just mean like the 160 or 180 characters, whatever, or 240, whatever it is. When you bring that across to super long form, fuck man, the algos eat it up, and the
Yeah.
people also learn from it.
Yeah, 100%. I say this all the time. If you want to be a good writer, become a skilled writer, like sign up for a Twitter account and just start tweeting, because that it forces you to simplify, cut fluff, focus on one idea. Plus, you get the feedback from your audience, see what's resonating. You're like, oh, I need to double down on this. So you don't get that immediate feedback anywhere else, or at least none that I know of. So yeah, Twitter is super powerful, man. I love it.
What were some of your hypotheses that you thought were working and then they change? Often with creators, they will do something and it will not work, and then they will just do something random and it'll blow up. Was there anything for you that kind of stands out that you stick to?
Yeah, dude. One thing that was kind of just completely clicked after was I was at, say, 20,000 followers after 14 months of posting on Twitter, or like 12. I forget what it was. And I was going to launch this thread. I was like, iffy with it, with the headline. I was like, I don't know about this. It was like 23 sentences that'll make you more money than a 4-year writing degree. I think that was the one. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't have thread in it. Like, are people going to know this as a thread and stuff like that? And it was super short headline. And I was like, screw it. I'll post it. And I posted it and it just started blowing up, like just blew up. And it got like 40,000 or 35,000 likes or something in a day or 2 days. And I got 10,000 followers from it. Like, holy shit. Like, just madness. And I was like, okay, like there's something here. Like, that really popped off. Like, that was my most viral thread. Gained 10,000 followers. So I'm like, let's try this again. So I did like 47 sentences that'll make you more money than a 4-year business degree. That popped off. I got like 20, 30,000 likes again. I was like, I get another 10,000 followers. Like, cool, I'm gonna do with marketing. I do a marketing one, and that blew up. I did a copywriting one, that blew up. And that made me realize, oh, you need to be really short and to the point with your headlines and be very punchy, because before I was just saying too much in my headlines. It was just way too wordy. And I realized, oh, there's like there's certain elements to a headline that makes it pop off. And the headline is the most important part to like anything, because if people don't click on your headline, or they don't click to see what this thing's about, then they're not, like, it doesn't matter if you have the best copy in the world if they don't click, right? So that's made me realize, like, okay, there's certain elements to headlines that make it pop off. And that's when I started studying it. And that's when I got really good at writing headlines, and all my clients started to pop off a lot more. I started to pop off a lot more. I got really damn good at that. And I think that's been a big part of my success with social media, was learning that. That's when it all clicked. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
It's like the hooked element of like how we can get users to really like be absorbed to products or features or anything. It's that one line. What would you say that like the components are of that? Like, is there specific?
Yeah.
How would you break it out? Let's say.
Yeah. So I made a formula, actually. Super nerdy. So
Fucking dork.
I know, I was a jack nerd. So off the top of my head, so there's like 4 elements for virality with a headline. So there's the benefit. So what do they get out of it? Why should they care? There's the relevance. So I could say how to be the best basketball player in the world, but if I have an audience of writers, they're not going to care because it's not relevant to them. So you need benefit, the relevance, and then you need the reach. So if you have the best content in the world, but no one sees it, doesn't matter. So you need reach, which is like retweets or like engagement, stuff like that. And then, so you multiply those 3 elements. So that's the top part of the equation. And then you divide it by perceived, perceived effort. And so by perceived effort, that's like, okay, is this very wordy? Like, is there a whole wall of text? Is this like, oh, I don't want to read that. It's like, it's too long. Or is it like, oh, this seems impossible to do, I'm just not even going to bother reading it. So you combine those. So benefit, relevance, and reach, multiply those together, divide it by perceived effort, and then you have like some theoretical virality score. So like, to break it, give you an example, like 27 sentences that'll make you more money than a business degree. So 27 sentences, it's low perceived effort, right? Because, oh, I just got to read 27 sentences. Make you more money, that's a benefit than a college degree or 4-year business degree. So again, like you're getting low perceived effort because you're getting this big benefit in this like 27 sentences. It's highly relevant because everyone wants to make money, right? So boom, that's another element. And then the reach, I had a lot of my friends retweet it, or I paid for retweets on that, so I had the reach nailed. So when you combine all that, that's why it popped off, and then boom.
Fuck, man, that's nuts. There is that common theme I'm seeing between these kind of types of creators. Like they're able to hit that nail on the head continuously,
Yeah.
and I think it's because like where would you see the reader in that journey? Do you think the person that's consuming it like is in need of this? Like is like let's say the money aspect. People always want a side hustle. They always want a side business, but they have no clue what to do. Is the fact that you're making it that easy, not making it easy, but making it easy to digest is what's making it a lot easier to consume, and then the content's going further.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, all people want to just like feel secure. They want to make more money. They want more status, stuff like that. So if you can
Mhm.
base your ideas around that and then kind of follow that formula I gave, then you just have a recipe for success. Because like humans, I mean, they always want more, right? Like they adapt to their
Yeah.
situation. They're not really satisfied typically, so they always want more. And if you can present ideas that kind of fulfill that desire or solve a pain, then they're going to click on your thread if it's presented well.
Mhm. Interesting, man. I think it's like there's a few different variables that are always at play, and it's like you're always feeding into it. So it's much cleaner.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the things that like stay away from that you see very, very often happening? Like what's in the writing technique that you often see people go down, but it's not actually conducive towards results?
Yeah. So there's two things. So like technically, a lot of people write fluff. They just like very wordy. You don't need all that. Like you're just wasting space, man. Like if it doesn't add to your message, then just take it out. Like, you can probably cut off like 50% of the stuff like that you're writing typically at the beginning. So that's like the biggest thing. A lot of people are just way too wordy and they don't understand like what they're trying the point they're trying to get across. So you need to ask, like, who am I writing for? What effect do I want to have in them? And then why should they
Mhm.
care? And then when you like answer those questions internally, your writing gets a lot clearer. And then when it comes to more broad principles, is a lot of people are just growing a following. They're not growing a brand. So you see a lot of these accounts, they write 10 Google Chrome extensions that should feel illegal or something like that. Like,
I was just about to say it to you. I was literally just about to say, like, what about people that say, like, I've made 25K this month for my agency? As in, like, does that help someone? I'm trying to think through these examples as you're talking.
yeah, I mean, like J.K. Molina has a saying, I really love this, is likes ain't cash. So, I mean, this is like the big kind of secret. A lot of these accounts with 200,000, 500,000 followers, they're getting a lot of likes, but they're broke, man. They are hurting for cash. And the reason they are is because they're writing this broad ass content that doesn't build them as an authority or anything. So, sure, you can write like Google Chrome extensions and stuff like that. I mean, like, you're just getting likes, and then it's the stuff that shows that you know that shows that you're competent in a certain area. That's what gets people to buy from you. I mean, if I build a following of 1 million followers just tweeting platitudes and broad quotes and stuff like that, if I go to sell, say, uh, sell a marketing service, I mean, like people are just not going to be interested because I haven't built up that audience of people that are interested in that. And I haven't shown that I know what I'm doing. So
Mhm.
you might not get as many likes when you're talking about topics that are more niche down and gives more value. But I mean, you're going to get a higher quality audience that actually buys from you. So
100%, man.
that's,
Man,
yeah.
I always think about that because like obviously I'm at like 1% fraction of yourself in terms of like growth and reach. But with even my podcast stuff, if I'm writing like detailed technical podcast educational stuff, I'll get click shares, I'll get calls, and I could fill up 2 or 3 calls in a week. One of them could turn into a client. These clients are not cheap; it's B2B work, and I think that's funny at someone who has 3,500 followers versus some people who have 100K that's going nowhere. Like it's
Yeah.
cyberspace, and it goes
Yeah.
back to the ass and abs on Instagram. Like just because you're getting 20 fucking thousand photos on your abs literally means jack all unless you're selling programs or whatever. So it's very nuanced in that way. And I think like not yourself, but some people, a lot of people succumb to the fucking the simpy kind of posts. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? It's nearly
Yeah.
easier to do than the let's break down some technical writing aspects or technical podcast aspects. So it's
Yeah.
weird that kind of change, you know?
Well, so their measurement of success is just skewed, right? So they're basing
Yeah,
their measurement of success on followers, likes, and all that stuff. Sure, there's a place for that, but I mean, if that's your only metric of success, then it's I don't know, you're kind of screwing yourself over. So, like you
you're
with
fucked.
3,000 followers, like you, sure, you might not have as big of an audience, but you have quality people following you, and that's
Mm,
I would say way more important than the number of followers, right?
definitely, man.
I kind of like I kind of toe the line between like basic content, authority content, stuff like that. Because like kind of like I write a lot of basic content or like the growth content to like build my network of stuff and like improve my reach. And then so when
Hmm.
I do talk about the more authoritative content, it's gonna hit more people and have a higher chance of like converting people. So there's like a little game I play. But like the people that go all the way on just the platitudes and growth content, I mean, kind of screwing yourself.
You are going wide and deep at the same time, which is
Hmm.
sick. You started going deep. You started with deep, and then you started going wide, and now it's
Yeah.
benefited you both. You know, in terms of like content scheduling, like I think this is an interesting topic. So you obviously know Justin Welsh. He was on my podcast as well. I was listening to his podcast with Dickie Bush, and you know he has this very, very not necessarily complicated, but systematic way of writing his content, starting on a Sunday, and it's all produced through it. And then in contrast, you know, someone maybe doing it on a daily basis. How do you write your content, let's say, for them? Do you plan it? Do you prepare it? Do you do it on a day? How do you think about it?
Yeah, Justin Welsh is like a robot, man. That guy kills it. He's very
Mm,
systemized. That's something I need to get better at. I, I mean, there was a period of time where I was just like every night before the night ended, I would write 4 tweets and I'll just like send it out the next day. But now I'm starting to batch it all on like the weekend, so I'll write the week's worth of content. I like doing a month's worth of content, but I just don't do it typically. But I'm doing like a week at a time now. And when I write, I try to hit one actionable piece of advice every day. And then I write about whatever's on my mind, whatever values I have or things I'm
yeah.
experiencing. And just like the kind of rule I've always stuck with is like one piece of actionable advice every day,
Hmm.
and stick to that. And now that I have such a big audience, like I can write about what anything and I just grow. I think I
Mm,
grow like 300 to 500 followers a day, just like 4 tweets a day, which is very nice. It's very, very thankful that I'm in this
yeah.
position now. But
Capitalize
yeah,
on it, man. It's
exactly.
just
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Strike while the fucking iron's hot. You know what I mean. Like that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. That's
Yeah.
awesome though, because I think for a lot of people, like including you know anyone who's balancing a job or whatever, it seems quite difficult to both do it all at once or to do it on the go. So it's kind of like finding what suits you. You know, if once a week or whatever it is a much better. You know.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely need to batch it if you want to keep your
Okay.
sanity. A
Hmm.
it's a bitch if you're just doing it every day and you're like, oh, gotta do this. It's like it's way easier just get in the mode, like spend like 4 hours, just write tweets and just write your content, schedule it all. Maybe we don't have to worry about it, you know. Like I'm a big proponent of like eliminating things that need to be done every day. Just like do it all at once and like batch it or pay someone else to like delegate it, schedule it or whatever, and
Hmm.
do that.
Fuck man, I'm gonna take your advice. I'm gonna start doing that as well for
Yeah.
next year because I think with my podcast because it comes out every Wednesday. I will often wait till the episode's out. I'll create some video clips around it, some text space around it too. So there kind of was a delay, but I suppose like at the end of the day, I could still write 101 different things, put them all together, and just get myself set up. You know. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, learning like trust me, I'm learning a lot from you. I'm gonna be going back over this several times.
Yeah, dude.
Um, man, I love this. Like I love picking your brains on it because I don't know. I think it's sick. I really I'll tell you a story. Actually, I'm actually dyslexic. Would you believe?
What?
So yeah, yeah, I'm
No
dyslexic,
way.
and I don't think it's like that bad. But like when you're a kid, like they try and make it a lot worse than what it actually is. You know.
Yeah.
So that's why I started a podcast. So backstory. So I started a podcast. I wanted to do something online that wasn't business orientated. I was sick of doing fucking drop shipping. I was sick of doing that. So I was going to start a blog, and then I was like, fuck, like I'm not that good at writing, I won't bother doing it. I was gonna start a podcast. And then when I started a podcast, I had to fucking write about the podcast. So I ended up writing every day as a result. I swear to God. And because if you don't, man, trust me, if you don't publish your podcast or promote it, it's not growing. I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck what anyone says. So yeah, long story short, I'm very interested in the topic. That's why I like going very deep with you on this.
So,
In terms, go ahead.
I got a question. So, like, as you've written more, has have you found that you've improved with writing, or does your brain just like scramble the stuff every time, like it's a new kind of thing?
Honestly, it's gotten like so much better. I'll be completely honest with you. So I've been living with my girlfriend for the last couple of years, and like whenever I was writing at the beginning, I'd ask her to like read it. I'm like, could you read this? And she'd be like, oh, like it should be like this or it should be like that. You know, you shouldn't like put it grammatically like this. I was like, okay, whatever. So then I got Grammarly Pro, and Grammarly Pro is like a teacher like batting you over the fucking head with a brick. So that was like a rude awakening, okay? And I used that for quite some time, but that like I didn't do that to I didn't use it so that it would take care of the work. It would teach me what to do. I actually got rid of it because the extension kind of shit my laptop, and I
Yeah.
moved to Hemingway app, and then I just started to learn really like how I should be structuring sentences. And I, to your point, eliminating percent of the fluff, cutting it way down, trying to get everything inside one line, continuously everything to one line, just short and snappy. And I just got way better at it. And like I think with everything I was doing then, it just started to improve. And I started to I do actually love writing. That's not to say that I'm fucking good at it, but I do enjoy doing it. And yeah, it's something that I always practice. It's something that I always read, and I just really enjoy it.
That's awesome, man. I love that. It's like a meditative practice. I love writing. It's hard. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so beneficial for your thinking and like even speaking skills. I find the better I get at writing, the more fluff I cut out of my words. I I still say and like a lot, but it's something I'm working on.
Yeah,
That's cool. Pro Writing Aid's also a freaking great tool
pro writing it.
to yeah,
I'll check it out.
I should be sponsored by them the amount I promote them. It's like
You should be,
Grammarly on
man.
steroids. Yeah.
You know, having a podcast as well will fix your like speech. You have no idea how much it will because I don't edit my stuff anymore. But in the beginning, I used to edit everything, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is how I actually speak." And
Yeah.
then I just started. I cleaned everything up and got better at it. And now, man, I can walk into an interview or a presentation or meet someone, and I don't even. I'm still get nervous, but like in comparison, when you're doing fucking hundreds of these episodes, you get used to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember Jordan Harbinger, he said that's the same. They would edit their podcast and they have to cut out all the ums and likes and they were just I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm just gonna clean up my
Yeah.
speaking. So that's funny.
It was costing me too much money, man. I remember it used to cost me like 60, 70 quid an episode. And then I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to learn how to speak. Speaking right. Speaking right. So
Yeah.
I got it sorted. Who would you say was like, are some of your, I guess, inspirations for writing? Would you look at classical style writing or much more modern style?
Yeah, so I guess more modern. I read some writing books. One my favorite is Writing Tools by Roy Peter Clark. I just picked it. I don't know. I just like found it on Amazon and it had a lot of reviews. I was like, oh, I'm gonna check this out or whatever. I love that book. I think I built a lot of the foundations for my current writing style. And so I'd say them or him. And I really, when it came to social media, I emulated a lot of Dan Coe. I love his values. I love his writing style. And I actually hired him as a mentor early on, and he was a big influence on me and my brand. So shout
Mhm.
out to Big Daddy Dan. Um,
What did you
and
learn from
then
him?
I learned just I mean, like that. Okay, so the three pillars thing, like the growth, personal, authority. Like I learned that from him. Um, what else? I learned simplicity. He's very great at articulating ideas and simplifying things. So
Mhm.
that was very useful for me. And just how he presented his brand. Like when you go to Dan Co stuff, you get a feel for what he's about. And I have a different brand than Dan Co, but I still think when someone sees my stuff, I think it resonates like, oh, that's Dakota. You know, if you were to read like a tweet without seeing my name on it, I think some people would be able to tell, oh, that's Dakota.
Mm.
Which, yeah, I like that, because I mean, like a lot of these platitude accounts or these big accounts, they're just regurgitating what everyone else says, and they don't have their own voice. So they have a following, but they don't have a brand.
Mm.
So it's, yeah, they screw themselves over.
That's wild. Dan is a very interesting character. So like you look at his stuff and like he's very deep on what he's discussing and he really does mean what he says.
Yeah,
And there's not a lot of people out there that really mean what they say. Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
I don't know what his background was in or what he studied when he was younger and stuff. But you look at him and you're like, fuck me, like this dude is like a modern day philosopher. That's the way I look
yeah.
at him.
I
You know,
lived
I don't
with
know him
him.
personally, you know.
I lived with him for 5 months in Texas, and I can vouch that he's really about that life. You know, like the kind of, he's very stoic and very philosophical. He's very curious, and he pursues his curiosities. And yeah, he's a really cool guy. I look up to him a lot, and
Mm.
yeah, he's been very influential.
That's cool, man. I like the aspect of life of like, you know, looking at what everyone else has been doing and just thinking like that's just not me, you know, similar to yourself and you know, myself as well, is that looking at the general status quo, like how things are done and trying to do something different and exploring that curiosity. And maybe you're not making as much money as you could have been in the beginning, but you eventually sort it out, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Takes a
I
bit of
mean,
time.
that's something I've realized. I mean, I've grown an audience to like over 360,000 followers, and I haven't monetized it once. Like I only have my ghostwriting agency. I haven't sold a product or like anything
Hmm.
to my audience, and I think I'm appreciative of that, because I think a lot of these people, they start a following and they just want to sell, sell, sell to their audience, and I think it kills a lot of like trust or like the relationship with them. I'm definitely going to sell stuff to my audience like pretty soon here. But I think a lot of people, they're in it for the wrong reasons. Like they just want to like sell a course, make a quick dollar. What I
Hmm.
did early on was like I learned a skill. I really learned it, started a business with that. And now I want to show other people how they can do the same thing. And like I think it feels more pure that way. It's because like I actually want to help people. I want to make money in the process. Like I'll be transparent, but it's like
Hmm.
I'm not doing it just to sell to people. Like I actually want to like help people get value. I want to help like change their lives and like teach them the skills to do so. And like I think yeah, I'm grateful I took that path, not like a sell right away kind of path.
It's the byproduct of your experience and expertise. You know what I mean? Like this happened
Yeah.
naturally. And I think what's funny is what happened myself was that I was getting asked the same questions continuously. So you could find the commonalities of what's happening, in, like let's say the podcast space and how did this, how did that, and you can kind of bundle them together. And that's when my agency started, was because people were asking me the same fucking shit, and I was like, well, this is probably valuable to someone, you know. But it's not some, you know, same with yourself with ghostwriting, is that it's not like somebody can't do it, it's that they don't want to do it. And therefore they'll go to someone like yourself and
Yeah.
see that moving forward. I wanted to chat about the mindset side of things and the training side of things. So were you always into the gym, or like how did that come about, and how did your health and training kind of come into your work, let's say?
Yeah. So for context, early on, I was like a bigger kid. I was,
Mm.
I don't know, probably for like grade 5, grade 6, I got kind of chubby. And when you're
Little
when you're
fatty.
yeah, a little I was called a chubby chunker one time, and I was like, fucking dick. But I mean, when you're younger like that, and people are calling you chubby or they make fun of you, you internalize a lot of those narratives, and you start to think, oh, like they think I'm like this, I must be like that. You start to internalize that narrative. So I developed a lot of anxiety and just low self-worth and stuff like that. And I carried that on for till like, man, like grade 9. I don't know, for years. Oh, like I was fat or I was chubby till like grade 8, grade 9. And that's when I started going to the gym. Like I had enough. Because I mean, people would make fun of me. I was just like, got sick of it. Like the pain became so much. It's like, I need to make a change. So I started going to the YMCA boot camps with my stepdad. We'd wake up at like 5 a.m. almost every day, and I'd go before school. I just train my ass off. Like I trained until I threw up a few times. and I loved it. I fucking loved it, man. And I kind of became hooked on it because each time I went to the gym, I knew I was getting away from this old identity that I didn't like. I didn't like who I was. I knew each time I went, like I was kept getting farther away. And I mean, one day I just like looked in the mirror and I saw like the first visible changes in my body after a few months. And I was like, oh shit. Like I was 20 minutes in the mirror. I was just looking at myself like, oh, this is sick. You know, I got like the V coming in and I was like
Sick.
kind of around the abs. Yeah, sick, bro. And that was when I kind of became really hooked on it, because it's like I'm no longer running away from like who I used to be. It's like I'm running towards an identity that I want to be. God, I'm gonna tweet that later.
That's fucking sick.
But I got
That's
hooked
gonna
on
be the
it.
intro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I started to identify as this fit person, or this person that went to the gym. And once I did that, that's when like I just started going like all the time. And like I got into weightlifting when I was 13 with my brother, and I just started like packing on more mass. And I got known as the Jack Kid. I was still very insecure because I told I had this narrative going on for so long, so many years in my head, like I'm this fat kid, I'm no good, I'm not worth it, and just like this and that. So that took like a lot of years to like unwind that, unlearn that. But yeah, like I think the foundations of everything is like around your health. So I'm grateful I learned it at a young age, because I mean, going to the gym and doing shit you don't want to do sometimes, or working towards one goal, I mean, that really sets the foundations for everything else. So, I mean, if I want to pursue a different endeavor like business, well, the discipline I learned from the gym and showing up every day and understanding, okay, maybe I show up every day and only get 1% better, but I mean, that 1% is going to compound over time into something very meaningful. So the lessons I learned from lifting and going to the gym was super impactful on my writing, social media, business. I just understood the value of consistency, and over time, like you're going to get gains, and the long-term aspect of it. So I think a lot of people would benefit from going to the gym, and even like the confidence aspect. So as I changed my
100%.
self-image, like I started to reflect it a lot more in my personality. I was way more outgoing, I was more confident, and that's seeped into my brand on social media or business and stuff like that. And it's really helped me in many ways.
I love how like most people get into the gym for like a confidence issues or like to get girls or whatever in the beginning, and then after a while that just all phases out because
Yeah.
you see like the actual benefit from it. It's wild, man, because like I'm very much similar myself. I think so. I competed in like men's physique, and I feel like pushing myself that far, like as into like the brink of your brain, whereby your test levels are so low, like you're at the very very bottom of peak week. You're like like trembling. By doing things like that, I feel like that all the other shit is fine, right? So
Yeah.
like, of course, it's difficult, and like working in like proper startups, like it's challenging, it's difficult, but I feel like you figure it out. And when I kind of
Yeah.
when this clicked with me was when I had an internship in London and I was young. And I remember just looking around and seeing people wildly out of shape. I actually remember this distinctly, and this is so bad to say, but I don't give a shit. Basically, went into an office, was like a like proper like investment banking style office. You could see down, you could see 100 people. 95% of them were fat as fuck, so out of way, so out of shape, really unhealthy, really, really like on the brink, head down in an office. 6 o'clock came, 7 o'clock came, not one person put their head up, ages from 25 all up to 50. And I remember just being like, holy shit, I don't want that for me. And then I always think about whenever I got really busy, similar to yourself now, that because you're training for so long, it's almost more difficult to not train than to train. And then if you start pulling that out, you'll see all the downsides that will happen. So it's very easy to keep it's actually easy to keep it up because it's difficult to imagine life without doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You identify with it, man. And you just, it becomes addictive. I think it's like a drug, right? And it's a good
Yeah.
drug to get addicted to. And I
And you
mean, just
realize the benefit of it, as in
yeah,
like the physical side, the mental side, like where it all comes together.
and how people treat you too. The biggest thing I noticed was how different people treat you when you're in shape or you're fit. Like people respect you more. They think you're more confident. There's all these like benefits, and it's really interesting just going from chubby kid to the Jack kid and just seeing how I was treated is
Yeah.
interesting.
That's wild, man. I completely agree with you. Actually, funny story, weird anecdotal experience. I was walking last night with my girlfriend through the city, had my dog with me, and came around the corner, and a guy who was obviously slightly drunk, he like nearly kicked my dog, just slightly. He was kind of drunk. It wasn't like anything bad, but he turned around to be like, "Oh, what the fuck?" He turned around and saw me, and he was like, "I'm sorry." He was like, "I apologize." And then I turned to Elise and I was like, "I guarantee you that if it was a girl or a skinny guy, whatever, he would have been a prick because he was slightly drunk. You could kind of tell from it."
Yeah.
And then it's just perception, you know. And that's not to say that you're better or whatever, but it's like it's impressions. It's first impressions, man. And that is the world we live in. Like your landing page of your Twitter, the way it's designed, the way Dan Coe's is designed, it leaves a very strong first impression. And you have to do it in a physical sense too.
Yeah, I mean, framing's everything, right? Like
Hmm.
the like you said, the first impression. Same with like headlines, right? Like headlines like, determines how you see everything else. So in a sense, like your physique's your headline and what you're advertising to people in that
Hmm.
sense.
That's wild, man. Yeah, it all comes together. Um, how much do you think like writing is about like discipline? Going back to the training element of it, do you think it all kind of comes together?
Yeah, 100%. The biggest reason people fail is because they're not consistent. That's especially true with writing and social media. So when I started Twitter, I burn it in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write every single day. Like the day since I started on Twitter, I've not missed one day of posting. Like it's always at least one tweet. And I learned that from the gym. It's like just show up every day because the moment you start like, oh, I'm not gonna do it today, like one day turns into two, two turns into a week turns into a month, and then you're done. So it's
Hmm.
just so many people, man. They don't understand. Like I know people that grew to 10,000 followers in like 2 months. They stopped because they burnt out and there's weren't consistent. But like the only difference between like me and other people is like I just stayed consistent. Like I just realized, okay, some days I am not going to grow as much, or some days it's just going to be harder, but I'm still going to show up and do it, even if it's one tweet. So if you're just consistent, like it's impossible to fail. It's possible to fail if you're consistent and you iterate and you kind of analyze what's working and double down on it.
Hmm.
Man, it's kind of like you go to the gym every day, you eat well, you sleep well. It's impossible not to get fit, right? So
Yeah,
if you just do the basics and you just do it consistently, you're gonna make progress, and that's whatever endeavor you pursue in life. And I think the gym really taught that really well.
100%, man. I was laughing because I saw an Andrew Tate tweet on that. He was saying like over a long time horizon, it's impossible to fail. Because if you're the person that's getting up and you're just fucking going at it, solving whatever problem you're solving, whatever it's writing, whatever, over a longer time horizon, everyone's gonna fall off, and
Yeah,
everyone's gonna. It'll be a few left. Podcasting, a good example. 2.3 million podcasts in the world. I think. Uh, I think like 40% of them don't have past 3 episodes. I
yeah,
think like 70% of them don't have past 30 episodes. I think 90% of them don't have past 100 episodes. Now, more episodes doesn't mean you're more successful, no doubt about that. But it's a good barometer, you know, the test of time.
100%, man. I. It sounds so simple. I don't know what's the trick, what's the secret.
Yeah,
It's like just show up every day. Just I wish I could like
it's so
scream it in
unsexy
people's
though,
brains.
isn't it?
It is,
But that's
yeah,
the reality.
exactly.
Like, as in, like, it's like waking up, like, and your girlfriend's like, "What are you doing today?" And it's like, "I'm writing or I'm recording or whatever." It's like the same thing that worked yesterday, just a small bit. You know, it's the same with the gym. Like, as in, like you're doing like I don't like I have a coach, for instance, and I don't change my training particularly. Might change my food, but I don't change my training. I still go in and just do a fucking straight like dumbbell row, the same one I did when I was 16, you know?
Yeah,
Because it works.
exactly. Right. It's just yeah, and it compounds on each other,
Mm,
but it just takes a while to get that curve, that exponential curve.
mhm,
But I mean, if people can have a long outlook, longer time horizon, they understand all this is going to take time, then they're not going to get discouraged by like day 40 if they haven't seen crazy results.
mhm,
But yeah, it's same with like New Year's resolutions. Like people just go hard for 2 weeks and then they give up. They're like, oh, whatever, screw this. It's
mhm.
the same thing with anything else.
That's why I love all the people that start like November or December. They're like, I want to get myself a little bit more in order. Start a bit earlier or whatever, and then it isn't a New Year's resolution. It's the same shit. I
Yeah,
imagine you're going to be doing the same stuff on January 1st that you were doing fucking 2 months ago. You know? same stuff
Exactly.
every single day.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no like new year. It's fucking Groundhog Day at the end of the day, every single day. And
Yeah.
that
Like
should be the way, because you have like the model down. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah. It's just a matter of showing up every day. Like lift weights, sleep well, eat well.
Mhm.
That's all there is to it.
That's
I'd
it.
say it's more of a mindset thing than anything, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
the mindset of like, okay, like, it's gonna take a while. And right now, I just spent like 30 days in Dubai and I ate like shit for most of it. And I weigh like 10 pounds more than I normally do. And I can
Mhm.
feel it on my body and stuff. But now that I'm back in my old routine, I'm like, okay, so like sure, like I screwed up for a bit back in Dubai, but now I know exactly what I need to do. Like go to the gym,
Yeah.
sleep well, drink water, and don't eat like a pig. And now I'm
Yeah.
like already seeing the weight fall off, and it's just like, okay, I just need to execute this every day.
Yeah. That's what makes it nice as well. Like I just came back from Thailand as well. My girlfriend, we said spend like just like a week and a bit, just 2 hours from Singapore. I like to go like really hard for like 2 months, like work on something, work really, really hard on it, and then 5 days off or whatever. But it's not even off. I just do slightly less output on those days, and go chill, go to the Philippines, go to Indonesia for a bit, nice and chill. Um, but then you kind of have that kind of model that it's all working towards a common goal. So it's sick. Um, I want to ask you about the psychology and emotional side of writing. I want to read out one of your tweets first. So what I thought was interesting was you have a tweet that says study marketing to steal attention, study storytelling to keep attention, and study sales to monetize attention. How important do you think psychology is to writing?
Oh, it's everything. Because like at the end of the day, writing is communication, and communication is
Mhm.
human to human. So if you can understand what makes people tick, then I mean, you kind of win the game. Because if I just like write words, like it doesn't mean anything. Like if I just write random words, it doesn't mean anything. But it's when you write it towards one goal or one message you want to convey. If you can convey a persuasive message, then that's when you get results. So you can get people to follow you, you can get people to buy stuff from you, you can get people to take a certain action. So it's super
Mhm.
powerful. And I think just like writing is just the medium, but understanding the message, that's what actually moves people. So writing is just a way to present your ideas. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people uh ignore the human aspect. So they write stuff that people don't care about, or they don't have the reader in mind. But when you have the reader in mind, like why would they care? Then that's when you become a lot more persuasive. You just always ask yourself, okay, why would they care about this? Or would they understand this? Or just being very considerate of the reader. It makes a
Mhm.
huge impact on your writing.
What factors do you consider of
I
the
think
reader?
about yeah, I think about incentives. So I think, okay, why would someone care about reading this? Maybe they want to make more money? Okay, I can craft it around that. Or maybe they want to, I don't know, raise their status. I can raise around that, or something like that.
Mhm.
I think the biggest question is always ask yourself, why would they care? Why would they care? Just always ask yourself that. And if they wouldn't, then probably take it out. Or if you can't make
Mhm.
them care, then take it out. Right. So I think just
Mhm.
asking that one question will like cut a lot of fluff. It'll give you more direction in your marketing or your writing and be a lot more persuasive.
I'm trying to think of like some examples I see often in terms of things that look a bit dry and maybe look even like static versus some posts that like kind of essentially pop off the screen at that point, because they do feed into those elements of appealing to someone's, I don't know, mainly on the psychology side of things. There's that element of it. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, like to give an example, I had a ghostwriting client where he wanted a thread on credit scores. Credit scores. No one gives a shit about credit scores. So I had to think, okay, like how am I going to make people care about this thread? So the way I did it was I didn't even in the headline, I didn't even talk about credit scores. I didn't reference that. I wrote something along the lines of the one thing 99% of people ignore that will make you rich, or something like that. So I targeted the benefit of credit scores. So becoming wealthy or making more money. And then in the following tweet, I talked about, oh, it's credit scores and blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to focus on, okay, what do people care about? If I talk about well, here's like 7 tips to raise your credit score. Like people aren't going to care, right? But by talking about the kind of the benefit of like framing why they should read this, like, oh, it's going to make you wealthy, but 99% of people ignore it, has that curiosity element. And then since they're more incentivized to read it because they want to make more money, so they'll read it and like, oh, it's credit scores. Like that's the kind of the vehicle that's going to make the money. So they're more incentivized to read about credit scores, opposed to like, here's 7 tips on raising your credit score. You don't give a fuck about credit scores. Like it's so stupid. I got like 1,000 likes or like 2,000 likes on that thread, and it's only because I framed it in a way that was beneficial to them or incentivized
That is
them to
fucking
read.
wild, man. How long
Yeah.
does it take you to think of those threads? Like, would someone send you like, I want to talk about fucking the U.S. elections?
Uh, yeah. So it depends on the topic. Some take longer than
Mm,
others, but I mean, I got a pretty systemized process now for writing threads. I just mainly think, okay, what's the end result that people care about, and then what are the main points? How can I make them actionable? Why should they care? Stuff like that. And then, I mean, I put most of my focus on the headlines because they're so
mhm.
important. But now it's gone a lot faster about writing
Yeah,
threads. Probably takes me like 30 minutes to 60 minutes to write a thread. And then for my ghostwriting agency, I like have my frameworks laid out in SOPs, and I have people follow that, so they do a lot of the writing now. Um,
mhm.
but yeah, like it's pretty easy for me now. Or pretty simple, not easy.
Yeah, of course. It's not even easy. It's just the fact that you've done it so much, it becomes second nature to you. You know,
Exactly.
man, you're making me rethink. There's so much different things at the moment. I think this is an insanely valuable podcast. Do you record many podcasts?
I actually started one like a month or
Really?
2 months ago because I wanted to get better at speaking, like we talked about earlier. And I
Yeah.
know it's something I'm not the greatest at, but it's something like, well, if I do enough podcasts, I'm going to get really good at speaking. I think it's a very
Yeah.
valuable skill. Plus, I get content out of it. I hired a writer, or not a writer, sorry, an editor, and just waiting on this. I have like 12 podcasts recorded, 13 podcasts recorded, and I'm just waiting on like
Sick.
that to get edited. So I'm just like stockpiling stuff, and then I'll just release it once I have enough.
Nice, man.
Because I like batching stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's funny is I was speaking to someone the other day about like podcasting, or it was actually podcasting, but even it's applicable to writing. It's like I was saying to myself that, you know, extroverted, it's quite similar to yourself, don't mind speaking to people, whatever. But when it came to podcasting, I found it quite unusual in the beginning. And I was like, why wasn't I good in the beginning? Like, why was it unusual? It's because there's a fucking microphone in front of me. I haven't spent the last 25 years with a microphone in front of me. And then I was like, okay, and I'm speaking to a randomer on the internet through fucking some Wi-Fi connection. Of course, of course, it's going to be awkward, you know? So I was
Yeah.
like, and that was my first thought, like, and I was on day one, and then I was like, 10, I'll get to a better feeling. 30, 50, 100, and then it snowballs, you know. So man, you'll smash it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the same thing with writing. Like the first tweet was like, oh, I'm putting myself out there. And then after enough, you just don't care. You're like, oh, whatever. Screw it. Same with podcasting, man. Like I've
Yeah,
already noticed a huge improvement. Yeah, it's super valuable.
it's ongoing, man. I want to ask maybe slightly different on the psychology, but mainly on the emotional side of things. So, like Twitter is, I suppose, like infamous for divisive conversations that have split people and torn people originally. I know there's obviously the niche of Twitter that you write and that I'm trying to follow, which is just, you know, educational. But, you know, is there elements of like emotion that you're not necessarily trying to pull on sometimes, but maybe even pull on sometimes that make tweets and make content more engaging?
Yeah, 100%. So big thing I try to focus on is transformation. And
Mhm.
because one of my original goals was to help other men. I went through some shit, like just social anxiety or like low confidence, low self-esteem. And now I have this big platform. I wanted to kind of encourage other men to like improve their lives and help themselves and kind of like show them, hey, like I started this one point and now I'm here. Like I used to be fat, now I'm fit. I used to play video games all the time. Now I just like work out all the time, or like, just way to improve my life and just show other people, hey, you can do this even if you have this rough start. So I focus a lot on transformation in a lot of my tweets. So I'll talk about how I used to be a fat kid. I'll talk about having social anxiety, parents smoke crack. And just like different,
Wild.
yeah, dude, just crazy shit in the past. But just
Fuck, man,
like
that's
showing,
wild.
yeah, it's just showing people like, hey, you can have this shitty situation, but I mean, like, these are the tools like I use to help me. And I don't know, I understand what it feels like to feel worthless and to, like, feel lost in life and not have direction.
Mhm,
And I want to help other people like get through that, because I know how fucking shitty it feels to feel that.
mhm,
And I think I went through some stuff where, sure, it didn't feel good at the time, but I think I went through it so I get to pave the way for other people. And if I can help people do that, that's awesome. So I focus a lot on transformation. And if you look at the
that's
best stories, it's all around transformation. So you look at Frodo at the start of his journey in Lord of the Rings, he was this like naive kid. At the end of it, he's this hardened hobbit. Like Harry Potter, same thing, or Breaking Bad, like same thing. Like
mm.
all the most powerful stories are around transformation. So that's like, if you want to move people, influence people, make them take action, then talking about transformation is very powerful.
Fuck, man, that is sick. Yeah, because like you see it, even like the best content, or even because content that's viral is transformations in general. Like the hobo CEO that comes in as the winning CEO and all shit like that. But
Yeah.
that's obviously too far on that side, of course. Like, but if you can bring in those small anecdotal experiences of yourself and share those, it can be very valuable.
Yeah, because everyone, at the end of the day, everyone relates to, maybe they not might not relate to your particular specifics of your story, but they relate to overcoming struggles. They relate to uh, just defying the odds and pursuing things and being successful, or maybe failing. And sure, it sucks, but if you talk about your failures, you're showing your vulnerability, and you
Mhm.
show that you're still showing up. Like, people resonate with that stuff, and I think if you can focus on that, you really you move a lot of people. And it's cool. Like, the coolest thing is not the likes, the retweets, all that. It's when people DM you and you're like, hey, like, this really spoke to me and this meant a lot. And like, that's cool. I think that's really powerful stuff.
Mhm. Man, the main reason why I started my podcast was because I was in a consulting firm. So I had worked really hard at university, did not really well, but did quite well for someone who's a dumbass. And then got into a company, and I was just so unfulfilled, like really, really, really shit role. Like I felt like that. Oh man, like it's like, is this it? Like, is this it? So I was super unfulfilled. I remember I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It changed my entire life, man. Honest to God, the book changed my entire life. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start a podcast, connect with people, try to learn from people, whatever. And then I was kind of explaining this concept through my podcast. I don't really talk about it that much anymore. And the amount of people that were like, I'm in this exact same position was scary. All men, very quiet, very silent, wanted to stay anonymous, all in DM, not sharing my podcast, none of that shit, putting it up on your story and all that stuff. Just saying like, "Whoa, I'm in the same position." And then over time, seeing them pull themselves out of it technically and move on is sick. And then I moved more into the online kind of business space, which I was trying to like, essentially destyle the conversation and getting feedback saying I've made my first dollar online. And I was like, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean?
It's life
Um,
changing.
that's just it. And probably similar to yourself. Like I was young dude when I first started, like, basic e-commerce and shit. I remember seeing like an order coming through on Shopify and being like, "This is the internet." And I remember,
Yeah.
and I said it to my girlfriend recently, who has a very successful online store. And when she was starting it, like long ago, I was like, when you see it come through on Shopify and you're on your phone, everything would change. Just everything changes. And she saw it and she was like, "Fuck, I'm in." And you never undo that process. And again, we go back to the original point. It's like traveling. You unlock this new area of the world that no one necessarily taught you in school or whatever.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift, right? I mean, I remember my first dollar online. I was like, "Holy shit, this is crazy!" Like, so even though it was like
Hey,
$5, it's like it was so meaningful, because
man,
it's
it's
like going to
awesome.
0 to 1 is so much more powerful than going like 5 to 6, or right. Like, it just shows you, oh, this is possible, and it's like a drug. Like, you get hooked. It's a beautiful feeling.
Man, even years later, like so years after that, when I started my podcast, I remember Google AdSense, bear in mind, on my website, seeing 17 cent as the first bill. And I remember being like, this is fucking sick. That was like 2 years ago, man. And I was like, this is sick. I was like, because I wasn't like, it's 17 cent. I was like, if I do this long enough, this will become €17. If I do this long enough, it'll become 1700. If I do this long enough, it'll be 17,000. That's not necessarily the entire goal of this, but I'm saying that it's the beauty of everything we discussed, the discipline, the commitment, the consistency, all wrapped together and pushed in nicely into one piece.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's so cool. And then showing other people the way to do it too. Like you said, like that's the best feeling, man. Just like
Hmm.
changing people. Dude, I helped my friend Taylor. I got him into ghostwriting. He's literally quitting his job as a college professor. He's making 25K a month. It was just so cool. Just like showing, like being able to show him like this like skill, this weird skill, and just write tweets for a living, and just make money, and like now you're quitting your job, and you're like your whole life's changed, right? It's so cool. I love it.
And you never go back as well, man. That's it, as in like for him now, let's say,
Yeah,
if he goes away and for the next couple of years he makes whatever, he's not going to go back to college professor. He's going to go into different style of online business and branch off, you know.
exactly. It's a gateway drug.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, where can people find your shit, your newsletter? Like it's all gonna be in the show notes anyway, but for anyone who wants to go search themselves.
Yeah, so Twitter is my main one. It's Wrongs to Write, WRITE.
Sick
And
name.
yeah, thank you. I'm pretty proud of that. And then Instagram, it's Dakota Robertson without the A, so DKOTA Robertson. Those are
Sick.
my main ones. LinkedIn. I don't even know what my username is on LinkedIn, but sure if you should
No
search
one
up
no
Dakota
one
Robertson.
does.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. But yeah, those are my Twitter's my main one though.
Awesome, man. Man, it was a pleasure. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, more sessions in the future. If I get to the States or wherever you are and next year, we should do some live as well. It'll be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, brother. I would love that. And I appreciate you having me on. This has been a great podcast. Very thoughtful questions and playful banter, which I enjoy.
Awesome, man.